Welcome back to another episode of Vkind Connects. I'm your host, Shabnam Islam. It's a new year and we're celebrating Veganuary all month long with an extra special set of Vkind Connects interviews highlighting members of our Vkind community, asking them why they went vegan and how it's changed their lives. And we have a really special guest today, Megan O'Rourke, who holds a special place in my heart because she works for a lovely company, Before the Butcher. And Megan, I am so happy to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much, Shabnam.
And I think you're a very patient woman because we tried to record this earlier and it totally didn't record. So we're going to do this again because she's a pro. But what I really wanted to dive in today, Megan, was your why you went vegan and how long ago that was.
So I went vegan really as a child. I found that I just never liked the taste of meat. I was raised in a very traditional Irish family and there was meat and potatoes every single day. And I just never liked it. I would upset my father and he'd make me sit there while I pushed the meat around on the plate. But I just couldn't eat it. And I didn't understand as a little one why. I just didn't like it. As I got older and into my teens, I really kind of dialed into myself and my feelings about it and realized it's because I'm such an animal lover. And I just can't, I physically get ill when I think about eating an animal or how they're treated in the farming community. And it's not all bad. They're not all horrible, but most of it is pretty bad. And when you have more of an awareness as you get older and do some research, you realize, wow, I just don't want to do this. And I don't need to do this. There's a very healthy lifestyle available. So in my early 20s, I started with a vegetarian diet. And again, in my ignorance, didn't realize that vegetarian wasn't vegan, that having an egg for breakfast, I wasn't a vegan. And I didn't realize then the impact of dairy and dairy farming and chickens and eggs and where they come from and why that's not a great thing. Now, of course, I finally got smart. So about 10 or 12 years ago, I went wholly vegan. And it wasn't hard at all because I didn't have animal meat in my diet. The hard thing was giving up butter and cheese. Cheese was hard. And that's because really I haven't found a great vegan cheese that I'm all over. So I just took cheese out of my life, which is fine. There are other things.
And now with food tech and food science, there are so many amazing brands. It's not the same landscape as it was 10 years ago. Now we have Melt Organic Butter, Miyoko's, we have Miyoko's cheeses, we have Follow Your Heart, we have Kite Hill, Rebel Cheese. I'm sorry, I'm just throwing out all my favorite brands, but what are your favorite brands now? Have you anchored cheese back into your diet?
No, you named all mine. Honestly, that's what I buy. Miyoko's. I'm like, if I don't have Miyoko's in my life, I don't know how or why she didn't come along 20 years ago. But there's all kinds of things. I bake. I'm a huge baker. I love to cook. So I bake with all kinds of vegan ingredients. I never tell anyone and they don't know the difference.
And that's the thing. You can't tell them because the second you tell them, they're like, oh, it's terrible.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah. So I'd bake cakes and I did Christmas because I always bake during Christmas. I never tell anyone and they always ask for the recipes. And then when they see the recipe, they go, oh, I had no idea. I could, I even had a neighbor, I gave her a bunch of bread and stuff. She goes, brewer's yeast, what is that? I said, that's something I can't live without. It's amazing.
Now, is the reason that you don't tell those around you that it's vegan is because the people around you aren't vegan?
Most of the people in my life are not. Aside from Danny and even our crew at Before the Butcher, not everyone there is vegan. And that's actually a beautiful thing because when we're producing and innovating new items, it's nice to have a carnivore in the pack to say, hey, it's supposed to taste like this. It's supposed to look like this. Because Danny and I can't do that.
I love that because for those of you that are watching and you're like, who the heck is Danny? And we're talking about Danny O'Malley, the creator of Before the Butcher, which is a meat substitute a business that has created so many wonderful meat substitutes that you probably tasted at Whole Foods that you just didn't know was in your vegan chicken salad. And so Before the Butcher, what is your position with Before the Butcher now?
So I'm the national sales manager with Before the Butcher, which means that I focus primarily on food service accounts, restaurants, hotels, manufacturers, industrial accounts. They use our ingredients and their products that they make. We work with a lot of famous people that most people would recognize their names. And And I also call on the restaurant chains and work our products into their menu and do promotions and things like that, travel around the country and introduce our products.
Now, Megan, is this your first time working for a vegan company?
It's my first position in a vegan company. Yep.
And how do you like that now
I
as
love
being
it.
fully vegan and working in a vegan industry? How does that feel? What does that mean?
Well, it feels like I'm finally not being a hypocrite, honestly, in my work. Because prior to this, I represented a meat company in Los Angeles called Farmer John and Sogs, which was an artisanal sausage company. And although I was very successful and I was the top salesperson for the company, I'd never tasted the product. So that
Now,
was interesting.
talk about making a full 360 change from
Yeah.
not only career choice, but your lifestyle behaviors.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
has that,
Totally.
how has that impacted not only your physical well-being, but your mental health?
Well, be on a vegan diet, and it's been long enough now that I can really measure what it was before and what it is now. There's weight loss, but there's also clarity. I'm very clear minded. My thought process, my memory is better. I'm sleeping better, which is for me a miracle. And of course, I feel better. I digest the food so much easier. So many of the foods now are so heavily processed, heavy in sodium. The meats, they pump the animals mercilessly to plump them up. And there's all that chemical and all that processed product is getting into your body when you eat it. Not only that, people don't realize cosmetics, clothing, cleaning products. So most of them have some kind of animal byproduct in them, and it's gross. So my life is vegan. I don't wear leather. I have vegan cosmetics, and they're fantastic. And they
Yeah.
wash off better than the other stuff because they don't have all that gunk in them.
Yeah.
Overall, for my friends and family that aren't living a vegan lifestyle, it's a challenge because they like to go to steakhouses. And of course, I don't. But if we're all getting together for a drink and that's where they're meeting and there's steak all around me, then, I have a drink and
And
watch
you
everybody else.
and you are the definition of what veganism really is, because I think when we think about veganism, most of us are exceptionally tolerant, right? We're here to meet people halfway, even more than halfway, because we really do want to spread the message and plant the seed that can really grow an abominable forest, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's so much better for our world, our environment, for the animals, of course. Being a huge animal lover for me, I've as a child, everybody knew, hey, bring your rabbit. If this kid said, oh, my dad's going to kill my rabbit, I'd say, bring it to school, I'll take it. And I would bring it home. And then people would bring their pet rats and mice and ducks. I came home one day with a box full of baby ducklings. And what we would do is I'd go downstairs in the basement of our house and I'd take care of them. And my mom was my criminal in kind, and we wouldn't tell my dad. And I think from a young age, for me, saving animals, rescuing animals, that's a big thing for me. I spend a lot of my off time and a lot of my income donating not just time, but money and supporting animal rescue shelters, trying to spread the message to people to rescue animals and not pay for a gourmet puppy, a designer puppy. There's so many beautiful animals at the shelters that need homes. And in doing that saving work, you are adding to the benefits of our world, of our environment, of those animals. You're giving them a loving place to be, and you're not eating them, which for
Yeah.
me is the most important thing.
I mean, it's hard to say that you love animals if you eat them too.
That's right. I mean, some celebrity said, you say you love animals, but you call them your pets. If you can't have pets if you love animals. And it takes a minute to really realize what she was saying. I forget who it was. Miley Cyrus, maybe?
Or to
Might
bet she's not vegan anymore.
No, right? But her point was, if you think of them as pets and you stick them outside in the snow on a chain, then you don't love animals, do you? And I think that's the point.
Well, I think when you think of them as pets, it's more of you think of it as something that serves you, right? It's there to serve you, to make you feel better, for it to be an accompaniment to your life, when that's not really what a pet or a living creature is. It's an
No,
extension beyond yourself, right?
every living creature has the right to live in peace and happiness and joy. And I don't want to sound like, Mary Poppins, but it's true. They were not put on this earth to feed us. Much like, what if the situation were reversed? We were not put on the earth so that the bears could serve us to their cubs. I mean, come on.
I love that you said that your why was about animals even from the very beginning. And now, as a vegan, your why is still for the animals. However, you're engaging yourself in more philanthropic endeavors.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that briefly?
Sure. I don't like to talk about a lot of things like that really because it sounds very self-serving, but uh, trying not to sound that way. It's basically there are so many shelters and animal rescue organizations across this country. What I do is I try to act as much as I can as a liaison between the rescue society and people who are interested in having that animal, saving that animal. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot. People will see me on there either donating money or saying, hey, I'll pay the adoption fee. If you'll get that dog to this guy over here in Kansas and the dog's in New York, I'll take care of the cost of transporting it or getting the fees paid because maybe this guy can't afford it, but he wants to love that animal. That type of work.
And that's the hardest work there is, creating the connections, creating the possibilities for there to be a life worth living in a
Yeah.
place that is safe and sound. And
Yeah. And dry and warm.
and Megan, we are so grateful for people like you being part of our Be Kind community. And we thank you so much for being part of our Connects interview today, because that wraps up this episode with Megan O'Rourke from Before the Butcher. To watch this episode and many more, go to www.vekindconnects.com.